What a wild and wacky and kind of BS week, too, Drew. There were some games out here this week, weren't there?
There was, man. There was. What a wacky, wild week.
I'm still in shock, I think, from the Ravens game. That one was just...
It speaks volumes.
Ravens, Jets, and Browns. I mean, there was all just crazy all over the map. And then we've got whatever's going on. Supposedly, we have a missed field goal in Dallas. We got to go back and rewatch that one because we've been just engrossed in this Arizona game here. And Kyler Murray getting 38 chances to try to tie the game.
Eight.
Gotta love those. Gotta love that yellow laundry that comes in to save the day when you need it, huh? But at least the game's exciting.
It helps.
All right, let's get started, man, because we are on the clock. We're going to be running up right into Sunday Night Football as we always do. We're glad you guys can join us. As we get into it, we're going to start with maybe the slowest game of the year with the Patriots going on the road to face the Pittsburgh Steelers. Drew, these teams are like exactly the same. Statistically speaking, like it went exactly the same almost.
Yeah, it was kind of a snooze fest until about, the fourth quarter? I mean, it was not really a fun game to watch. Picking up the kicker for the Steelers kind of panned out for me, kicking that 52-yard field goal. That helped out my fantasy team.
It definitely did. It was one of those things that the Steelers, on top of just where they're at, do you think T.J. Watt changes the trajectory of this game? Because I do.
Yes.
I think 3 points right there. He would have made that one play down the line, whether it's getting a turnover, whether it's stopping him on a third down. I feel like T.J. Watt would have been the difference maker here. But without him, the Patriots are the better team by 3.
Yeah, and I think it actually kind of shows two great coaches, two great minds of football, and they were battling each other. I don't think there was a dominant performance by any player on the field. I think this was definitely came down to the coaches, and Belichick is arguably the GOAT.
Let me say this. I think there's still a little bit of a difference with the quarterbacks because as good as the Steelers' defense was, I mean, when you talk about their stat lines, Mac Jones coming off the back injury, Drew, was still 21 of 35 for 252 yards. A touchdown and a pick, so it wasn't perfect. But you compare that to Trubisky, and you compare that to the 21 of 33, like I said, almost exactly the same. 2 more passes, 2 more incompletions for the Patriots. But Trubisky only had 168 yards. You could tell they didn't quite trust him quite as much as the Patriots were willing to trust Mac Jones to throw the ball down the field a little bit today.
Well, I mean, I guess the two different things there is you got your franchise quarterback and Mac Jones, or at least they believe that. And then you got Trubisky is holding the reins until the young guy coming up is ready to roll. So
how long are those reins? Is he running out of rope?
I mean, can you really put this failure on Trubisky?
It's 14 points this week. They weren't exactly moving the ball and scoring a lot. We have Deontay Johnson, who seems to be like the new
Against a good defense in the Patriots.
True. Okay, that's fair. And I guess you could say the same thing about Cincinnati, but Cincinnati just lost their second game. So I don't know, Drew. I think at some point you have to look at the weapons you have and say, if we're going to be using this time to learn, why not have our rookie go out there and learn? While we battle through this, we have the defense to protect him. I've been beating the drum for that for weeks now, though, so I won't go back into it.
Nathan, good to see you, man. Anthony, good to see you. He says Ravens made Tua look like a top 5 quarterback.
In the second half especially, because he had a couple picks early, and then he comes out and throws 6 touchdowns. We'll get to that in just a second. First, we are contractually obligated to talk about Indianapolis getting blown out by the Jaguars, Drew. Okay.
Ian, good to see you, man. Glad you could be here for a short period of time.
I don't mean to kind of drive the knife in on Colts fans because I know my team's probably losing on Monday night once we get to that part. So don't mean to drive the knife in too far for them. Everybody has bad games, but this is kind of like the second one in a row. I know they came back and rallied against Houston. Didn't really happen this week. And I know the excuses are going to be there like, well, Pittman wasn't there. Alec Pierce, their second-round rookie, wasn't there. They were missing some offensive weapons for sure. But still, the Jags did a great job taking Jonathan Taylor out of the game. They had their best one, and they shut him down.
Yeah. And Trevor Lawrence looked good. I mean, I wouldn't sit there and say that the Indianapolis Colts have one of the best defenses in the league, but he did really well. I mean, I don't have his stats in front of me, but I think it was 3 touchdowns and 0 picks. I mean, that's over 300 yards. Christian Kirk looks like he's actually...
He's only 240 yards.
240 yards?
But yeah, he was...
I mean, I don't have the stats in front of me. Christian Kirk looks like he's worth the money. I mean, at least that chemistry between the two seem well worth paying that guy. Mm-hmm. I don't know if he's still worth it as a player, but the chemistry is probably worth it.
It's a little early for that. I think this is kind of indicative of Indianapolis' defense. I mean,
look at the Titans fan tell me that it's the Jags probably haven't figured it out.
I would have given A.J. Brown that kind of money, though.
Okay, but they didn't have that option because the Titans weren't going to trade A.J. Brown to the Jags.
That is true. I'm just saying. I mean, I know he had a good game today, but one good game doesn't make up for like a super bad offseason contract. But it's a weapon.
Christian Kirk played good in the first game too.
Oh, forgive me. Okay, he's worth it. He's worth $20 million a year.
There he goes. All right. Sean, good to see you, man.
Can we also talk about only 2.5 yards of carry, though, for Jacksonville? Obviously, this wasn't on the running game carry, even though Robinson did break off like a 40-yard run. They struggled to run the ball, and Lawrence kind of stepped up when it was all on his shoulders. That's what you want to see out of a young guy.
Sorry, I'm checking the game. Arizona has the ball first in overtime.
Oh, they're definitely winning that. It's over. Write them off.
Yeah, I think they're one-dimensional because it seems like the running game can't go. But if we're going to talk about that Colts defense, their front seven is the best squad on their team outside that's probably the best squad on their team.
Yes. You hope the quarterback position is your best spot, but like if we're talking about actual units, it's the front seven.
I think a lot of teams are going to find a hard time running against the Colts. Let's move on to the next game, man. Let's talk about these Dolphins because Nathan says, I hate to say it, but the Miami Dolphins have a good squad.
They do, and Jacob is saying the Cardinals and Raiders game is going wild. I hear him on that, dude. We've been watching that for like 20 minutes. Like, oh, it's over now, it's over now, it's over now. And yet here the Cardinals are storming back to win the game. We'll see what happens. You know, as AFC fans, we're kind of both rooting for the Cardinals, but as football fans, I got to say, Drew, I'd like to see some of that laundry stay in the pocket because this is like how many chances do you give a team? All right,
we're not talking about that game.
We're talking about the Dolphins. We're talking about the Ravens.
I watched this whole entire game through. This was the game that I kept on the majority of the time and then switched to other games going live. And when I saw the Ravens go up and the way that Lamar Jackson was playing, I was like, man, this is a blowout. I said, but I have something in the back of my head where I'm like, I'm going to keep watching this game. And I did not expect that outcome. Yeah, Tua looked really good. Tyreek Hill looks like he's always looked, and he can turn a game over. Waddle looks just as good. This team is definitely going to go far, even in the postseason. I don't know if they're going to get a playoff win, but they'll be in the playoffs. I'm saying that now after week 2, and I thought that before the season started. But what you saw from them is that their defense is acceptable to passing and running the ball. Obviously, Lamar Jackson brings a different kind of element when he can run 75 yards out of nowhere out of the backfield. But are you concerned about this Dolphins team? Because they're not always going to be able to put up, 40-plus points every game.
Ravens have a good secondary, though. They might be.
Yeah, I
know they didn't against the Patriots week 1, but look what the Patriots defense did in week 2. So that might just be a tough unit. And we kind of expect them to be.
Everyone's speaking volumes of the Dolphins right now because of that great comeback. That's my point is, what is susceptible to this defense? Is it just that the Ravens are that good, or is it the fact that the Dolphins might have problems on their defense side of the ball?
I think the Ravens are that good, to be fair. And I think the Dolphins kind of put themselves behind the ball with those early turnovers out of Tua. But obviously, once he sort of shaped up, Drew, I think when you're talking about how good the Dolphins can be, it can be this good all the time, I think. I don't think there's any defenses out there, bar maybe 3 or 4 of them, that can really slow down a passing attack that when it's going that good, there's nothing you do. The question is Tua going to be this good all the time? I don't think the answer is yes to that. I think we saw just like a good burst of Tua where he had a good 2.5 quarters. And are we going to get 4 quarters out of this guy every week? I don't see it. And I think Lamar can just do that to anybody too.
John, good to see you. Thomas, good to see you as well. Jacob says, after that game, does Lamar want to even stay with Baltimore next year or maybe go to Indy maybe?
He has said that he doesn't plan to play on the franchise tag. We'll see how that goes because it's really, really hard with the new players' bargaining agreement to hold out when you're on the franchise tag is about the only time you can hold out. It's still not easy, so we'll see what he does with that. I think the Ravens are running out of road to re-sign him, though.
I don't want to knock that the Ravens didn't play a great game. Mm-hmm. Lamar Jackson played out of his mind. I got this. You said Rashad Bateman is not a number 1 receiver. Do you dial those words back now?
No, I mean, he's not a number 1 wide receiver, but you don't need a number 1 wide receiver when you have a quarterback like Lamar and his running ability. I mean, Mark Andrews is the number 1 wide receiver on that team. He had 20 fantasy points today. I don't have his stats in front of me, but he had 20 fantasy points. I know because I played him.
Yeah.
I had Lamar in both my leagues, too, so I was living high in the hog today in fantasy. Just to round out the contract talk, somebody said, do you send Lamar to Indy? Heck no. I'm shipping him off to the NFC when I trade him because somebody's going to give me 3 draft picks for him.
Anthony says, pay Lamar. I mean, he played a great game. He just broke the record for the most 100-yard rushing games for a quarterback. He was tied with Michael Vick. Now he is the leader of that record. Probably will be for a very long time.
27?
Yeah, he'll be doing that for a very long time. Both teams, postseason expectations. Both teams will probably be in postseason. It's kind of early to tell. I would say yes.
Dolphins, I would say probably. The Ravens have a little bit harder road with their division, but I think both of them are going. I picked the Ravens to win that division this time. So, I think they're both postseason teams. I think they'll both challenge at least. Maybe one of them drops off because the Dolphins have a tough time because the Bills are in that division too. We've kind of forgotten about them a little bit because it's been like a week and a half since they've played.
Who?
Yeah, no. And once the Bills like kind of club the Titans on Monday night, everyone be reminded that this is still the team to beat in the AFC East.
For sure. Let's go to the next game, the Jets and the Browns.
Joe Flacco, man.
Dude.
He's back. We were talking about is Matt Ryan washed? Joe Flacco's coming out here winning games. Same draft class.
Oh, man. How does it feel to be a Browns fan right now? At home, you had that game under control until the very last play of the game.
Yeah, it was brutal. Like the onside kick, nobody's allowed to get anymore because you're not allowed to get in the running start, and they still get one.
Still got it.
Brutal. Really, really demoralizing loss because if you can kind of like survive these next few weeks, that's really what you need to do. You need to go 4-2 in this easy stretch of the schedule, and then you get to the tough half, and you hope you're close to 500.
This was an easy game, or it was supposed to.
When you get Watson back, this should have been one that you win, and especially without their starting quarterback, you can't lose to a backup quarterback like that, even though you have one too, because you're in a better spot scheme and roster wise than the Jets are at. So disappointing loss for them, but props to the Jets for just hanging around all day. Like this game was tied almost all the way through. Or like, one team would score and then the Jets would catch up. The Browns would score and then the Jets would catch up. So great game. Shout out to Joe Flacco. I know there's been like 12 times he's been proclaimed dead, but this was a big win.
Yeah, I like to see the young guys in the Jets uniforms playing well. Wilson catching the winning touchdown. Bryce Hall looking pretty good at running back. I think the Jets have a lot of potential in the future. I don't think it's now just because you beat the Browns, but is it a quarterback change when Zach Wilson is healthy?
Well, we got to see what he does this year. I think there's still like that chance to salvage his career if he has a decent performance. Yeah, then you can keep rolling with him. But if he struggles,
if he goes, let's just say Zach Wilson's back week 5 and he's 3-1, which is I'm telling you it's probably not going to happen. Do they sit Zach Wilson?
No. Yeah, you know Joe Flacco isn't the future, and in this AFC you're not going anywhere in the playoffs.
Sure.
What are we playing for here? I think that's got to be the answer.
You're 3-1. You
sit him down. Sit him down. It's Zach Wilson's team. Zach Wilson might be your quarterback for the next 10 years. You know isn't going to be Joe Flacco. So even if you go 10-7, Drew, and you make the playoffs for the Jets, is that a win? I mean, how far do you have to go in before you're like that was the right call to sit our guy down? I don't see it. I think you got to go with the young guy because he's the only hope that has winning a Super Bowl for this team.
Yeah. Hey guys, love the comments. Jacob, we will get to your question when we get to the Seattle game. I know you guys want to talk about your teams, but as we try to push forward so we can all watch.
Let's hit a couple. I'll be the good guy here. Let's hit a couple of them.
Oh my God! Here we go. This is how we go into the first quarter, and we have no idea what happened in Sunday's night games.
I know.
Oh my gosh!
Well, John wants to go back to the Steelers real quick. We'll do that. He says they should fire Matt Canada. Yes, because he's not taking enough risks down the field. When you have two good wide receivers, throw the ball down the field and let what happens. You have the defense that can make up for mistakes. That's what your defense could do when it's that good. You can make up for interceptions and everything. Let him throw the ball. Go to the rookie. I've been saying that since like week 0. So
Ian says he doesn't feel like talking about his team this week. Chris, good to see you. He says, I'm done with the Colts. Season over.
It's not over yet. Remember, your top 2 weapons were out, and they were in division games. They've started rough, but you have to remember, even veteran quarterbacks sometimes look at Russell Wilson. Veteran quarterbacks struggle in new systems and new schemes. This is the first time Matt Ryan has stepped out of Atlanta, kind of like we saw Russell Wilson in Seattle. It's been a rocky road. I know they're kind of powering through, and the Colts don't have quite as good of a roster as Denver does. I saw that. Don't panic yet. And this is coming from a Titans fan. Do not panic yet because this division will fall apart. And realistically, if the Titans lose on Monday night like I expect them to, you're still right in the running. You're still ahead of what should be the favorite to win the division. So don't panic. Not yet. They haven't won in Jacksonville in 8 tries. Don't panic.
All right,
just didn't happen.
We got to keep going. We will keep. We got to keep going. So our next game is the Bucs and the Saints.
You're staying on target. How far we've come. Bucs and Saints.
This game was actually a defensive brutal smash mouth game. You got an ejection halfway through, or a little
double
bit,
ejection.
Yeah, a little bit through the game with Mike Evans and Sean Lattimore being ejected from the games fighting, and then you saw some life. And you saw some life out of the old man, Tom Brady. And then...
He had 1 touchdown today, Drew.
And then...
Hang on. Let me read you some stats.
Hold on. And then you saw reality come into effect that Jameis Winston is still same old Jameis Winston.
That is true. Brady wasn't exactly great today either, Drew, with his 18 of 34, so right around 50, actually exactly 50%.
All I said was you saw a little life out of old man Tom
17
Brady.
would have been 50%.
You acted like I said crown
190 yards, Drew.
You act like I said crown him the MVP now. All I said was you saw a little life out of the old man Tom Brady. He threw a great ball, and what's the receiver that caught it?
It was Brashad Perriman.
Perriman, yeah, who made a very good catch, and that's all they needed. I mean, that's really all they needed. It just put that momentum on the other side. How much are you panicking as a Saints fan? Alvin Kamara cannot stay healthy. You have same old Jameis Winston, so if you guys get behind, he starts throwing picks. Is there a panic mode in the Saints?
I'm not hitting panic because the NFC is still weak. Like, we've seen them kind of show up a little bit early. Some of these games have been a bit of a surprise, like Washington beating Jacksonville and everything like that last week. We've seen some NFC sort of surprise appearances, but once the season plays out, I think you're still going to be in the running in the playoffs. I know it's not been a good start, but they beat Atlanta week 1. It was tough, but they beat Atlanta week 1, and I know they lost a close game here. I'm not panicking. Alvin Kamara is going to have some injuries, but now our wide receiver core, at least in theory, is good enough to maybe carry the day with his defense. So no panic yet. We're still probably going to the playoffs.
Jacob says Wilson to Wilson will be the next thing in the Jets stadium. It could be.
Yeah, maybe if he can complete the pass.
Castling, good to see you. He said, by all means, talk about my team. Nice to catch the show. What's up? Good to see you, man. It's been a while. Castling's been a while since we've seen you
good
live.
To see you. Thomas goes on to say he feels like the Bengals will be okay. We are going to talk about them, but I kind of agree to a point. We'll talk about what worries us. What worries us about the Bengals here coming up in a little bit. He also said his fantasy team blows. He needs to make some trades. Don't fret. You just ran into the buzzsaw that is Jake's team, man. I mean, I can't help it.
Oh,
we're just that good. I'm going to drop another 160 this week, Drew. I mean, we're living high over here. I hope Lamar stays healthy.
Nathan says Mike Evans thought he was Mike Tyson trying out there punch people.
Yeah, what kind of suspension do you think is coming down the pipe? What do you think here? On one hand, if I'm the Bucs head coach, I'm saying good job. Do you suspend him?
A game.
I think I might.
Emotions were high. Yeah. It was a very tough fought game. It's in division,
but he blindsided him. Like, let's not pretend like he didn't just come up from behind and just rock Lattimore.
This is a tough.
It's a little different when you're like face to face.
Right, I get it. I still think it is what it is. It's one game. I don't think it's going to be anything different. It's not like he took his helmet off and swung it at a guy.
Yeah, that's true.
I just think
we are talking different things there.
Yeah, I think it's not what you want to see out of your star player because you want to see professionalism. But these are teams that know each other, and I think, if I'm correct, I think this is the first time Tom Brady and the Bucs beat the Saints in New Orleans. I think
the first time since Brady's been there.
I think he's 0-4 in New Orleans. I think something like that. It's not pretty. So it was a tough game.
I think they said they were 1-7 or 1-8 in the regular season.
Yeah, it's something
against the Saints.
It's something crazy.
Not the postseason because they have won those games, but still, yeah. I mean, this is an impressive. I don't want to say impressive win for Tampa Bay. They're still struggling out of the blocks too, but same thing. When you have these veteran quarterbacks, you just don't hit the panic button. It's the NFC especially. It's like I don't care. We could start 0-4, and then we can talk about like maybe we need to start like turning it on to make the playoffs in the NFC. So yeah, I'm not that worried about it for the Bucs. I'm not that worried about it for the Saints. I think both those teams are still good and potentially going to be in the playoffs here.
Travis, good to
push forward.
Sorry,
no, go ahead.
Travis, good to see you. Said the Cards just won. It was a heck of a comeback.
I disagree. Took yellow laundry to get there.
I guess I'm behind on my app. It doesn't say that they won just yet, but if they did, it's what the NFL wanted.
Ian said the same thing. He said, "What an ending to the Cards game." We're gonna have to go back and watch it. Let me just say, they shouldn't have been in it. It took like the softest holding call ever to stay in the game. So
it was pretty bad. Oh, it was a fumble return. All I got is play under review. So if that was the case, then yeah, they definitely won. Travis, how's it feel to meet the buzzsaw of Andrew's team? Huh?
You were worried. You're telling me you were worried.
I got him beat. Anyways, moving forward, we got to get to the next game.
Carolina and the Giants. Yuck. Baker Mayfield kind of stunk today.
Danny Dimes
kind of stunk today. Both of our guys kind of stunk today. I don't know.
The difference is Daniel Jones has been in a Giants uniform for quite a few years now, and Baker Mayfield is his second game in his first season with Carolina.
Carolina's a better team, and they lost today. Has much better defense. They lost today.
Still sticking up for your boy. Huh?
I am. Who won? That's all that matters, Drew, right? That's all they ask you. Did you win the game? The Giants are 2-0 somehow. I think both times I would have picked against them. So props to them for battling through and,
For sure,
really
this
upsetting.
For sure, this is the wow, I just blanked out what I was going to say.
Worst game of the week to watch? Yeah.
No. For sure, this is the most surprising 2-0 team. Is this 2-0 team the Giants real? Is this a real team?
No, they won 19-16. 19-16.
They beat
Saquon Barkley won.
They beat your Super Bowl hopeful.
Yeah, but
Titans.
did you watch that game? Because if you did, you saw the Titans get out in front, and then classic Titan style, they're like, 13 points? No one will ever come back from that. Let's just take our foot off the gas. So, yeah, no, I mean, I'm not that impressed. I'm impressed to the point that they won the games. But am I like, look out for the New York Giants now? No. Daniel Jones threw for 170 yards today, Drew.
Hey,
Saquon went back to being bad.
You do whatever you can to get a W.
A win's a win. They all count.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to take that away from them. But am I shaking in my boots if my team had to play the Giants week 3? No. And it's the same for the Panthers. I think these are two bad teams that are both just in different stages of their life cycle, where the Panthers have a coach trying to hang on, desperately cling to his job, and the Giants are in the spot where it's like, it doesn't matter, dude. Like, this year, throw it out. I'm the head coach next year anyway. So props to them for going real aggressive and getting the job done here, though. Because Dable, that 2-point conversion last week in week 1, that took balls.
Ian says the Giants are a real football team, but their chances of winning the division are unrealistic.
Well, hold on. If the Eagles stumble on Monday night, then all of a sudden they're going to be leading that division.
Yeah, it's a good possibility. Yeah.
Do we have anything else we want to say about this game?
No, yeah, I do. It's nice to see Christian McCaffrey break 100 yards rushing the ball. It's been a year or so since he's done it. It's nice to see him come back. Seems like he can stay healthy and keep playing. That's kind of cool.
Melodrama coming out of Indianapolis. Nathan, he says Colts first team 0-17. It's not. I know starting weekly against Houston and Jacksonville stinks, but at least they're in your division, man. Don't hit the panic button yet. You're good for, like, let's say you are undefeated and you play the Titans here in those back-to-back or whatever, the 2 out of 3 weeks that it is. You'll win one of those games because the Titans always play down to their competition. They lost to Houston last year. They can throw you one. Don't worry about it. And Travis says the Rams almost blew it. He's right.
Yes.
Let's talk about the Commanders.
Even though we got the classic here,
a relic of the past, like we are here on
against Detroit.
Against
Detroit.
You want to talk about who I'm impressed by? I'm impressed by Detroit.
Oh, look at this!
You saw the Eagles.
You're getting on that bandwagon. Ian,
yes.
Ian, say it's you. Say you're the one that talked him into it, because this is what's happening right now.
I think the first time in a long time we haven't been on the bandwagon, and now they're looking good, Drew, because this was fairly dominant.
They beat the Commanders,
and on top of that, every time the Commanders tried to sneak their way back into the game, Detroit was like, "No, dude, let's turn it right back on. Let's win this thing." Jared Goff was not playing around here. I mean, he threw 4 touchdowns today? I'm the guy with the stats. Yeah, 4 touchdowns, Drew. 20 of 34, 256 yards,
St. Brown.
4 touchdowns, no interceptions, even though Amon-Ra St. Brown's touchdown probably should have been intercepted, but it wasn't.
Here's another
which
guy.
is all we care about.
Here's another guy that you said is not a number 1 receiver. Are you going to take those words back?
I didn't say that. I did.
Yes, you did. Don't you say that you didn't say that.
I did say you're not good enough, and I did think G.J. Shark was going to be the standout on this team.
Yeah.
He did have a rush for like 60 yards. And if there's a guy that I'm willing to admit that I'm wrong, I'm going to admit I was wrong on Amon-Ra St. Brown before I'm wrong about Christian Kirk. If that's what you're asking.
No, it wasn't Christian Kirk. It was Bateman.
Rashad Bateman. Yeah, both. Okay, throw him in there. Both of those guys, I'm willing to say that Amon-Ra is going to be closer to a first-round receiver or a first spot. But let's also not forget this is the team that almost lost to Jacksonville in week 1 in the Commanders. Like, they're not great either. So, yeah, we're still in pump the brakes territory here. I'm not walking it back yet, Drew. I'm not walking the talk back yet. But this was impressive.
It was impressive.
Very impressive today.
I like the points you see out of that offense. A little question mark about their defense, but it's not like Carson Wentz was out there just destroying them. It's just
on paper it looked good. In the game,
it was not. Yeah, it was not as good.
30 of 46 for 337 and 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. You look at that stat line, you're like, Carson Wentz killed it. But when you watch the game, you're like,
he has great weapons.
Yeah, it wasn't that good.
I think he has great weapons.
Been good for him too.
And Curtis Samuel is playing better than I expected him to.
I just want to know why they're not going to Scary Terry more. Like, you have Terry McLaurin.
I think because he's being doubled.
I don't care. Find ways to scheme him open.
He's got the safety in the top.
This is the difference between good teams and bad teams offensively, because good teams, you don't think Cooper Kupp's being doubled?
It's a Carson Wentz scenario. There's not going to be a number 1 receiver like that with Carson Wentz. He seems
I disagree. I think it's scheme.
Tell me right now, in the history of Carson Wentz.
Alshon Jeffrey. I'm jumping the question here a little bit.
No. You cannot say Alshon Jeffrey. He wasn't healthy all the time. Who was the guy that just tore it up. Who? What
Alshon
receiver?
Jeffrey, like when he was healthy, like early. Yeah, they went to the Super Bowl with him being the star, and Zach Ertz.
Yeah.
Zach Ertz tore it up.
Tight end.
Okay,
I said receiver.
Whatever. My point here being pass catcher wise, Drew, he's had guys do it. This is the difference between bad teams offensively and good teams offensively. The Commanders are a bad team offensively because regardless of what the defense does, the good teams like the Rams say, we don't care if you know Cooper Kupp's getting the ball. I'm going to do something creative, and you're not going to cover him.
Yeah, but there's a huge difference.
Everyone knows.
Cooper Kupp is the best receiver.
Okay, but Terry McLaurin is not a bad player. Like I can't make the argument that he's not Cooper Kupp because almost nobody's Cooper Kupp. But he's a very good player that if you like if he was in LA right now and Cooper Kupp was in Washington, Cooper Kupp would be getting taken out of games too, and Terry McLaurin would be like, dude, he's unstoppable. So that's what I think is boiling it down to it for the Commanders. They are not creative enough getting the ball to Terry McLaurin in space to let him make things happen. Instead, they took the easy route and they said, let's throw to Jahan Dotson today.
You know, even though they took an L here, I don't really think it was the fact that they're not getting McLaurin involved in the offense. I think it has a lot more other things going on. As someone that probably took him high in a lot of your fantasy leagues, you're probably like, no, they need to throw him the ball more, but he's not there.
Nathan, good to see a new Titans fan, man. Come on around. There's always room on this bandwagon for when we lose on Monday night.
Jacob says, can you guys please say a prayer for me? I'm going to drink myself to sleep tonight. And Nathan says he's going to join you.
Yeah, I hear you. And Travis says week 2 is better than week 1. I agree. I think we saw a little bit of a hangover from a lot of guys not playing in the preseason week 1. So I think what we're seeing now is teams starting to come into their own, and the action is only going to get better from here.
Let's get into the late evening games.
Or Seattle and
afternoon games.
Seattle and the 49ers. I mean, it looks like Trey Lance is out for the season with an ankle injury. He said he's going to take season-ending surgery. It'll be tomorrow before we know.
I want to get to Jacob's question because he asked, I'm going to change it up a little bit. Can Garoppolo,
yes,
if he turns his team around, can he be an MVP candidate?
No, the pressure was already on because I think the way Jacob kind of phrased it, was it Jacob's question?
Yes.
Is that right? I think the way Jacob phrased it was, now that he has his chance with Trey Lance nipping at the heels, like, will he be an MVP? He had that last year.
I changed it. All
right, well, I'm answering Jacob. I'm not answering you, okay? The answer
Jacob's not here.
Yes, he is. You're talking to him. No, I don't think so. I don't think you're going to get MVP caliber play. I think you kind of know that Garoppolo has a bit of a ceiling, but that ceiling is a lot higher, at least than what you're getting out of Trey Lance right now, period. I mean, we were listening to the 49ers broadcast on the radio when I was coming over here, and they were like, thank God Jimmy G is the quarterback. Like, it's, I don't know. The
way it really be 20
and then one guy's like, I hate Jimmy G.
Yeah,
like,
oh my God.
Go back and listen to that. That's a sound.
It's terrible.
Right there.
It's terrible. What did you? Okay, I'm not gonna ask you what you saw. I made a mistake. I said when the game started at 3:00, I said this is the game I want to watch. And the reason I thought and the reason I thought this is because I want to see what Geno Smith has.
Okay.
And what I saw was he didn't have a lot.
He's still Geno Smith.
And the Seahawks defense played a hell of a game, man.
He scored 17 points the first week. I think we romanticize things a little bit. 17 points doesn't get it done most weeks in today's NFL. So coming off that, and then you have another weak performance here. Geno is who we thought he was, Drew.
Yeah.
And it's just one of those situations where you need a quarterback in Seattle.
As much as we like the Denver's defense, there's no doubt the 49ers defense is way better.
Yes.
And what we saw was what Geno Smith is going to give you. You are not going to get a lot of points out of him. You are going to have to make a defensive stop and give it out to your boy Al Woods out there because that guy is a wall of a defender. I really want to give him props. I mean, that defense played really well, especially when they weren't at all practicing all week to play against Garoppolo. They were practicing against Trey Lance.
Right, and they did pretty well against Trey Lance.
Yeah, so even though they lost, they're 1-1 now, right? Yeah, they're 1-1 now. Is the Seahawks season over? Because now
it's not over.
Now you see
you can rally.
The Geno Smith of what he's going to be.
We can't let one bad game in the weather kind of skew our thing. I gave Trey Lance that same kind of cover last week. I'd be a hypocrite if I didn't do it for Geno here. It's in the weather. It's against a great team. No, their season isn't over because the NFC is so weak. Anyone could be that 7th seed. I think offensively you got to look better though.
I agree.
It's got to pick up.
Going into their team, 49ers, are there concerns now about watching star players, your starters, start to fall to injuries?
Yeah, but they're always banged up. I mean, the 49ers have been just snake bitten by injuries.
Exactly. They
always pull through. I mean, again, this is the difference between bad teams not having a plan offensively and having Kyle Shanahan, where it's like, I don't care who my running back is. He's going to be a star. Like, I know we didn't see a ton of that today, but still, like, down the road, you're still going to see the 49ers run the ball. You're still going to see Jimmy G making things happen regardless of the receivers because they're scheming guys open. And because that scheme is so good, they'll be fine. They're going to be in the race. I think the Rams and the 49ers are in a two-horse race now for this division. I know, shocker for me to call that, but still, I think it's a two-horse race. And I think both those teams are good enough to win it.
Jacob says Drew Lock will take over by week 6. Do you think that?
The fact he hasn't taken over by week 1 tells me they already know what they have in Drew Lock.
I don't think so. You had him. He was in COVID. He wasn't there for the last 2 weeks of training camp because he was in what do they call it, quarantine. So I don't think it's week 6. I think he puts another outing like this, Geno Smith. I think you need to spark this offense. That defense played such a good game against 49ers.
I think they'll give him to 1-3. I think they'll give Geno a little bit longer. I think teams don't really love making that like this guy this week, this guy next week.
I think it's 4. I think it's week 4. After week 4, if
you're 1-2 and it's just call it.
No. If they're 1-3, it's done.
That's what I'm saying. I think if it's if you go 1-3 by week 5, it'll be locked. Correct. I think that's probably fair too. I'm in the same boat there. Let's talk Falcons and Rams here.
Let's do it.
Unless you got something else you want to say.
Nope.
How is this close?
I don't understand.
How are the Falcons in these close games? I mean, they're still losing, which is what we predict. But
I really want to know is why we don't get Kyle Pitts get more points. I took him high in a fantasy draft. I'm
Excuse me,
I'm
you're
upset.
supposed to be good.
Yeah. Marcus Mariota, throw the ball to the tight end, please.
Welcome everybody else who doesn't watch Titans games, realizing now for the first time Mariota sucks as a quarterback. I'm sorry you had to find out here on our show, but yeah, Mariota is not very good at throwing the football. I think part of it too, it's not only on Mariota, because if you look at Delaney Walker when he was here in Tennessee, that was like the one guy he could go to. I think part of it's scheme, where Arthur Smith might just be like overthinking, where it's like, oh, he's so good, everyone's going to try to cover him. Let's try to work it into other guys, and we'll go up. No, you have like 1.5 good players that can catch the ball. The half is Drake London because he might be good, and we know Kyle Pitts is good. I think he will be, but again, we're not sure.
And
yet.
I have to say, I miscalled that because I thought he was not going to be good.
I was in on it. I wasn't him being like the first wide receiver.
I called him a slow Mike Evans.
He is kind of that, but hopefully it's like Michael Thomas a little bit when you're talking about that short range, like throw everybody off. But yeah, no, I mean, I think they just have to get back to basics, and it's like we have good players in this offense. We got to make sure they wind up the ball in their hands, and I think they'll make adjustments. I really do.
Nathan says Drew Lock is garbage. I don't.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I felt that way since he was coming out.
I want to be like, no, let him. He
just played the Chiefs all those times, guys. He's really just good. Don't come on.
He's better than Geno Smith. I'm gonna say it right now.
I agree. At the very least, he has a higher ceiling than Geno Smith does because you know what Geno's going to be.
Yeah.
Maybe Drew Lock could be a good quarterback. I don't think anyone in year 8 is like Geno's turned the corner. And now he's going to be like a top 15 quarterback. You know that's not going to happen.
Nathan says that he's a Rams fan and he is worried.
I mean, a little bit, but come on, you swept him. You had a bad week 1. Nobody had played. Sean McVay is the poster boy for I don't play in the preseason.
Yeah.
Nobody plays in the preseason. And then you looked unprepared against the Bills in week 1. Throw it out.
Yeah.
I do think that Super Bowl hangover is real. I think missing Von Miller is a thing. I think defensively they won't be quite as stout as they were last year. But as long as you have Cooper Kupp and Allen Robinson, who's now a thing, like we remembered he could play.
You won a Super Bowl being the 4th seed going into the playoffs. You'll be fine.
I wouldn't panic just yet. Yeah, I think they're going to be okay. Give them a couple weeks to really hit. Like if they're struggling with some of the stuff in week 6 and 7, maybe then we talk about it. But until you get to week 4,
we can definitely talk about the Rams a little bit more. When we saw the first drive the Rams had into the red zone, they threw the ball to Allen Robinson. I was like, yes, I took him for something. Cooper Kupp is not everything. And then after that, it was all Cooper Kupp.
Yeah,
it was all
Cooper
Kupp.
I took him first, and everyone was like, "No Jonathan Taylor, no Jamar Chase." I was like, "Yeah."
No, I told you I was going to take Cooper Kupp with the 2nd pick overall. You stole my thunder.
You did say that. Yeah, and then you repeatedly did it to me over and over.
Yeah, that's what you get for taking my draft. It's okay. My team doesn't look that great, but
thanks for taking that bullet for me.
I did beat Travis, so that's all that matters. Anything more about this game? We're going to the Texans and Broncos.
It's a win that they should have got. Shouldn't have been this close, but the Rams did good enough. And props to the Falcons for hanging in it for 2 weeks. They blew the Saints game week 1. That's a little concerning. But this is a team we were writing off, Drew, and they're hanging in these games.
Right. This was the number one pick next year in the draft for me. Is this the best?
Roberts had 4 catches for 53 yards. It's not over yet, and a touchdown.
Oh man,
he's coming around.
Is this the best 0-2 team? Falcons.
No. On paper, are we talking about, or like performance-wise?
I don't know.
Performance-wise, yeah.
They're playing great. That's
performance-wise, yes, the way they played. They're the best 0-2 team.
Maybe this is,
the Titans will be after they lose to the Bills.
All right.
But
let's go to the next game.
On paper, no, this is not the best 0-2 team.
Texans.
I don't know who, but I'll find somebody who's 0-2 that's better than that.
Texans and Broncos. You almost got scared.
Speaking of like still alive, they're not 0-2, but
you thought the Texans were going to be the number one.
It's like they're going to be winning the AFC South here in a minute. Oh man, Houston, how about rallying around Lovie Smith? And this is a good point you made beforehand. It's like, is it coaching that is driving a team that is under-talented to challenge in some of these games, or have they just had kind of a little bit of schedule luck that the Broncos haven't really put it together yet? The Colts look like they haven't put it together yet with their new quarterback. They played two brand new quarterbacks playing the spot. Drew, does this continue weeks 3, 4, 5 for the Houston Texans? Do they stay in games?
Well, I think Lovie Smith is a good NFL coach. I mean, when he got fired from the Bears quite a few years back, they were like 10-6, and they fired him because they didn't make the playoffs. I do believe that he has a capability of rallying this team around him.
Look at you on point.
I also think that you look at the other side of the field today, and you see the exact opposite. You look at what's the coach's name? Hackett, and you see him not being able to call a good offense. You see him being able to struggle with time clock management. You see, and again in week 2. But there's definitely comparison on paper with talent. I mean, the Broncos should have destroyed the Texans on paper. But the fact that it didn't happen, the fact that Russell Wilson was like 8 and 21 passing at some point in time in this game is ridiculous. And I know we joked about a little bit about Russell Wilson. Maybe he's burnt out, but the guy's not that old. And we're talking about 3 years ago. He could have been the best quarterback in the league, arguably. You don't just drop off like that.
Not to like frame this, but this is a Tuesday conversation, but this is why the Ravens, I think, are kind of worried about Lamar Jackson and his contract, because when you have a guy that his legs kind of push him over the top, and I agree Russell Wilson is different from Lamar Jackson, so the parallels aren't one-to-one. But my point here being, when you have a guy whose legs are one of his weapons, when he hits his early to mid-30s, that's going to be out the window. And the question is, what effect does that have on his play? Because Russell Wilson, like you said, went from top 5 to maybe top 10 now, maybe even dropping into like 12, 13, 14 range.
He was in our top 10.
He was. I think I had him at 11 or 10, but maybe you're right. Maybe I did. I don't remember. Go back. Well, I'll have to go back and watch us.
We hope we didn't put him in our top 10. No, I'm just kidding.
The moral of the story is when you use your legs when you're a young man, it is very difficult to kind of change your game and go to just the passer. And I think Russell Wilson will be interesting to watch as he goes forward, as he becomes just the passing quarterback. Because we've seen him fall short a little bit here, at least early in this new scheme. Again, this is us like kind of over-predicting a little bit. It's 2 weeks with a new system and a new head coach and everything else. I'm putting all that talk, but maybe, just maybe, there's this like voice in the back of my mind that's like, let's keep watching Russell Wilson and see what happens.
What is the chances of the Houston Texans make the playoffs?
0.5. It exists. The whole AFC South is bad. So, like, you're telling me there's a chance? Like, yes, it exists.
They tied the Colts.
Okay,
they almost beat the Broncos.
Tied the Colts, who got like molly-whopped by the Jaguars. They owned that game, Drew. So, regardless of whether the Colts are that bad or whether they just struggled,
what if the Texans beat the Jags?
Then they'll be ahead until like week 10 when like the Colts and the Titans figure it out.
The Titans get to their easy part of the schedule.
Yeah, well, they played the Giants week 1. How much easier does it get than that? Like, it exists, Drew. It's football. It's why we watch the game any given Sunday. Could they make the playoffs? Statistically, it's allowed. That's all I'll say. Statistically, it's allowed. Will they? I would put some money on them not doing it. I would put some money on them not
I'd love to see it. No offense.
I wouldn't.
I know.
Because we're going to go into that playoff game like, oh, the number 2 seed might as well have a bye.
Yay, the Chiefs get a bye.
Oh, behind Buffalo. Wow. Interesting. Cardinals and Raiders. Drew, this game should have been the Raiders. Like, they got cheated. I don't mind saying it. They got cheated.
We didn't get to watch it. It was an overtime game.
We didn't see the end of it. We watched a lot of it.
So it was a fumble from Derek Carr. Couldn't tell you what happened, and they ran it back and scored a touchdown. So that's how that happened.
Should never happen. Should never happen because of the weakest hold I've ever seen since the last time I watched a game-saving hold.
They had 8 plays in 12 seconds given to them by the refs.
Disgusting. I mean, this is just the state of football now, though, where we talk about the NFL massaging games. This is exactly what it was. They kept this one interesting to the end. Congratulations. But you screwed up the result because you did that. I mean, realistically, the Raiders won this game. The Cardinals did nothing until the end, and then just got hot with the refs kind of like pushing them. Like, how many chances does it take?
These
teams are too good to do that.
Will you hand me your pen, please? Your pen. Yeah, could you hand me your pen? Go ahead. I'll hold it for you.
Yeah, exactly. That's it.
Holding.
Got to give him a new fresh set of downs.
That was exactly how that was. It was pathetic. It was pathetic. I don't know what.
Thanks for the other one.
You're welcome. I don't know what the ref was saying. I mean, because sometimes you see it from another side. Maybe it was a ref that was looking back at the defender, but there was no jersey pull. The player didn't stop his route. He was able to change directions without any kind of resistance. It was a very soft
It's
call.
hard to not see this and be a little bit cynical, where it's like, the team that needed the help got it when they needed to keep the game exciting. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
That's all I'm going to say.
Do we want to talk about these teams? What are postseason hopes of both? I mean, obviously they want to be playoff.
The Cardinals
teams.
have a problem if they keep playing like this, because you won't always have the refs kind of kicking you in the butt. Sooner or later, they'll be like, if you're a bad team, you're just allowed to lose games. The Cardinals got to figure out pretty quick. They got to float to week 7, I should say, when they get DeAndre Hopkins back.
Raiders 0-2. Is there panic? Is it panic time?
Yeah, I mean, you won this game, so no, I'm not.
No, it is panic time. You know why they won this game?
So well. If you were the team that they were
play
pushing,
that well at the end of the game.
Okay, but they were up 23-7, and
They
the refs
should
were
have
like,
been.
"Hold on,
They
hold
should
on."
I look. What's Adams? Look up Adams' stats. I know at one point in time, all he had was one reception for 1 yard, 1 touchdown.
Yeah,
I get you can't just throw him the ball consistently, but you have arguably the best receiver in the league, and you throw it to the ball just a few times. They only put up 24 points. Was it 24? I don't even remember.
23.
23 points. That's it. Where the Chiefs just put up 40 points against that Cardinals defense. That defense the Cardinals have is not that great.
Adams finished 2 for 12, but he had 7 targets. So I think you got to take that in perspective a little bit. They did a good job taking Adams.
Yeah, but you know what? That could have been like a missed throw. He threw over because he had pressure on him. I think it is panic time for the Raiders.
The only way I would say it's panic time, and I'm sorry to take the dig at you here, Drew, is if the Chiefs keep getting calls like they got on Thursday night. Because other than that, listen, they battled the Chargers. They were in that game, okay? There was a dig, all right? It was a joke. But here's the thing. They battled the Chargers week 1. They battled in this
You
one.
just wish you were going to be 2-0.
I wish I got those calls. That's what I wish.
Whatever.
You think I'm getting them against Buffalo this week?
No.
But let me say this.
See you, Nathan. I know the game's starting, man.
I am not panicking, because I know for a fact when we're talking about the Raiders, they battled a good team in the Chargers week 1, and then realistically, they should have won this one. So, no, I'm not panicking just yet. If week 3, you lose that game, then we can talk about the panic bells going off. It's kind of do or die next week, but 0-2 doesn't have the same kind of like death toll that it does in previous years when it was a 16-game season. Even in the AFC, that's better than the NFC. So, period, I'm not worried yet.
Let's go to the next game. Cooper Rush is MVP of the Cowboys season.
All right, that wraps it up. How about what we're worried about? Thomas was asking about this before for the Bengals. The only reason I'm worried for the Bengals is because we paid all that money to fix the offensive line, and Joe Burrow's still taking sacks left, right, and center.
Yeah. It's scary. I think what it's at now is like 13, 15 sacks. I don't even know what it is. It's ridiculous. He has more sacks than Tom Brady has in a whole season in 2 games. Like it's scary. It's so scary that this is your guy that took you to the Super Bowl last year. This is the face of your franchise, and you're allowing him to just get mauled out there. And I will say this, in the benefit of the offensive line, not like they're good, there are some questionable things where Joe Burrow's like, throw the ball out. And he doesn't do it. He's trying to make too many plays.
He does make too much happen. That's a coaching thing. Is Zach Taylor the guy to coach him out of it? No. I wasn't super high on the Zach Taylor hiring, and I still don't think he's that good of a coach, to be honest. I know they went to the Super Bowl, and you're like, what? I mean, they went to the Super Bowl. With the talent they have there, I think Zach Taylor doesn't do a great job maximizing what they do. I think they get into a little bit like robotic, like, it's first down, time to run the football.
Yeah.
That being said, you got to beat Cooper Rush, period. Like, props to the Cowboys for coming out and being like, we're still a good team. Let's prove it to everybody.
Yeah.
And they took this game by the nuts, Drew. Okay? I know we're a family-friendly show.
Wow.
They did. They came out and they owned them in the first half. They did.
By the pecans.
Exactly. By the cashews, okay? they took control of this game early, and that was enough to hang on.
It was. And it was a close game. And, it's not like one team dominated the other team, even though you could say you got 6 sacks on him. But we've seen Joe Burrow come back from getting sacked upon a ton of games and still win games. This speaks, you nailed it. This speaks volumes of what the Cowboys are doing right now. Not that the Cowboys are like this just Super Bowl hopeful, but it does speak volumes of how.
You ask me who the better 0-2 team is, I'm going to go with Cincinnati than Atlanta. Okay?
I'm
taking the easy way out.
But I think Cowboys fans are got to be something excited about. Caslin says,
hey guys, Thanks for watching. If you like what you saw, make sure you hit the subscribe button below and ring the bell to stay up to date with all of our NFL videos as well as everything else we're talking about in sports.
We have a great community on Facebook already, but we're trying to grow our community on YouTube because we believe you guys can talk sports just as well as anybody else, and we can't wait to have those conversations with you.
So grab a drink, hit subscribe, come talk sports with us.